remember I called Chad and said, I just got a positive pregnancy test. And he was like, no, it's not. And I was, yeah, it is. Well, why don't you call the doctor? Why don't you just make sure, confirm? So he didn't quite believe me at first, but of course, first-time parents, we were thrilled.
Well, what I remember most is we hadn't found out the gender yet. And so we were convinced, or I was convinced, that it was a boy. Oh, and when Elena was born and we learned it was a girl, it was almost, yeah, is this our child? What, really?
Yeah.
And just, your heart melts right away and you figure out what real love is in a level and depth that you never even could have imagined.
Are you talking to me? Are you talking? I got a phone call from her babysitter. It was November 3rd, 2011. And the babysitter was panicked and said, something's happened. You need to meet me at Riley. And immediately, every parent's worst nightmare. And I just remember asking the babysitter, I said, what happened? What happened? She said, well, she choked. She stopped breathing. And I said, well, is she alive? And I just remember the babysitter saying, I don't know. I don't know if she's alive.
And I just remember racing out of the restaurant. It was pouring down rain and driving back as fast as I could, not knowing, not being able to talk with her. And I called my uncle and we prayed the whole drive back until I could get to the hospital.
I got to the emergency room not knowing if I would find my baby there alive or my baby there dead, and I was by myself. And the only thing you can do in that moment is just pray, is just beg God that she would be there alive. And the first thing that I knew when she was alive was the nurse came back. They put me in a room and the nurse came back and said, she was crying, Emily. They just brought her in and she was crying. And that was the first moment that I knew that she was actually alive.
Looking back, our priorities in those first few days, that first week, we were actively having to make decisions about Elena's direction of health. It was exhausting obviously on an emotional level, but on a physical level as well. And the Ronald McDonald House for us was that bridge. It was that safe haven, that escape that just for, in some case, a moment, in some case, hours, either of us or one of us could go down and connect with family, connect with friends, have a quiet moment maybe to ourselves that we could kind of refocus, resharpen, gather ourselves, have some sense of normalcy outside of a hospital room with monitors and tubes and beeping sounds and all of that chaos that it can really start to swell up on you.
It was a place that made you feel human, because in that moment, it's so overwhelming, it's so heavy, like you're processing so much, and it was a place where you could go and you could have a conversation with your family, and you could get a hug from your best friend, and you could have a meal and eat at a table, and you could make a piece of toast. Just the simple things that when you're in an intensive care unit with your baby hooked up to a million monitors and a tube, it was a place where you could escape that. And I think for both of us, that was such a haven for us at that time that honestly, I don't know what we would have done without it.
I have hope and faith, and as we move forward, and Elena's journey takes us who knows where, and who lives and how many people that she's able to touch and impact. That's the joy that we see and that we're able to gain from her, is just the spirit that she exudes and the courageous personality that she has.
She's our light. We call her our shining light because that's what she is. She's a beacon of hope to family, to friends, to people we've never even known. And I have people that I've never even met. They come up to me and say, oh, you know, we heard about Elena, we've read Elena's story, and she's been such an inspiration to me. And I try not to take things for granted. And to know that our little 3-year-old girl is an inspiration to grown adults. And I mean, it brings us so much joy, just like she does.